And welcome in to our Varsity Media Sports Network live stream broadcast. Today, it's the Locust Valley Falcons on the road taking on the Lynbrook Owls. And folks, we are not quite ready yet for tip-off. It's Ben Turchin and Gavin Shaw, or I should say face-off with Lacrosse. We wanted to come on the air, Gavin, just let everybody know that we will be starting a little bit late, whether that's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We don't know yet, but as soon as we get going, we'll come on the air. But at least we wanted to come on and tell people that the game will not start yet at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a long trip for this Locust Valley team, so still getting warmed up, but certainly excited to see this one. This kind of a must-win game for most of these teams, so it should be interesting.
All right, so we step aside. We'll pull up our graphic, let you know that we're still streaming, so don't go anywhere. And when we're ready to rock and roll, we'll come back with today's boys lacrosse matchup, Locust Valley and Lynbrook. Stay tuned. Once again, folks, we thank you for tuning in to the Varsity Media live stream broadcast from Lynbrook, Marion Street's Ben Turchin and Gavin Shaw. We're not quite ready yet for a game. They're about 5 to 10 minutes delayed. Not exactly sure why, but as soon as the game begins, we will have it for you. So stay tuned, and we'll be back momentarily here on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
Thanks for joining us back at Sid Covert Field here on the campus of Marion Street Elementary School. Again, I'm Gavin Shaw. To my left is Ben Turchin. We got a good one today, a rematch of last season's playoff bout, the Lynbrook Owls taking on the Locust Valley Hawks, who had a long trip here. We are getting underway in just about 2 minutes, Ben, but this is certainly an exciting matchup, and these two teams both under 500, certainly a must-win game.
This is a game where the records don't speak to how good these two teams are. These are perennial powerhouses. Locust Valley Falcons every year in the postseason. Lynbrook Owls every year in the postseason. And despite the fact that the records show 3-5 and 3-6, Gavin, I think we're going to have a heck of a matchup. And the other thing is both teams are really hungry. They need a win.
With that, let's get into the starting lineups first. The home team, the Lynbrook Owls. Get a look at them. This is a deep group. We're potentially going to have some guys out today, but now both are playing. Anthony Andrews, first on the attack, number 22. Number 15, Jesse Candell, their leading scorer on the season. Number 4, Jack Fagan. Number 2, Jake D. Benedetto. Number 5, John D. Benedetto, no relation there. Number 8, Sean Barrett. You look at those two in the midfield, Ben. Both were sick this morning, and the coach was saying they're potentially not going to play. Both are in the lineup and out there defensively for them. Joseph DeMonte, Nathan Stewart, a youngster, Jack Dorney, and then in goal, the freshman Colin Lung playing a big role with Kevin Looney injured. Let's switch it over to Locust Valley, one of their deeper teams in recent seasons, certainly relative to last year. You see the starters there, Mike Chiazzo, Luke Delici, number 9, Frank Smith in attack. Their leading scorer, he had 44 points, or rather 44 goals, 74 points last season. Just a ridiculous talent. Cooper Trapetta, their leading scorer this season so far, Carlo Paz, who they really like, Buck Andrea, who plays like a Canadian. We'll get into that in a few minutes. On the defensive side, number 11, Joe McNamara, number 22, Chris Simak, David Hill, number 13, and then in goal, the Loyola commit, Colton Teitelbaum, one of the best goalies on the line. So we'll take a quick break and come right back after the national anthem. To bring you this one, it's Lynbrook against Locust Valley next on Varsity Media. You are looking live at Sid Covert Field, about to get underway. Lynbrook Owls against Locust Valley. You didn't get a significant chance to get into it, Ben, but this game just so essential for each of these two teams. Both of them have had their injury issues, are still sort of figuring out the chemistry. They've had a couple of losing streaks, and yet we both feel these are potentially two of the better teams on the island and have a lot of potential when it comes to the postseason.
I think if you spoke to Coach Bill Laley for Lynbrook and if you talked to Coach Jim Casper for Locust Valley, I think both of them would tell you there's a lot of league schedule play left to go in the season, including this game today. And that's why each of these games the rest of the season are so instrumental, not only to the standings, Gavin, which is obvious, but also to get on the winning streak. Right now, these teams, both of them need a winning streak.
Yeah, Locust Valley, they still feel like getting a top 2 or 3 seed on their side of things, very feasible, coming off a 11-3 loss against Cold Spring Harbor to end that game. And then for Lynbrook, they are fresh off ending a 4-game losing streak, so on the opposite side of things with a 9-5 win over Friends Academy. We go through some of the key guys on both these teams. Great news for Lynbrook pregame. We initially thought they were going to be without the services of Sean Barrett, their second leading scorer, and John D. Benedetto, who is arguably their most important player, all-county honorable mention last year, rock of their defense, does just about everything for them. And now both are going to be playing today, so could potentially make a big difference in this one for the Owls.
And it's obviously huge because a big storyline middle of this part of the season is the loss of Lynbrook's goalie, their starting goalie who was down, a senior, and now they have a freshman in net, Gavin. I know you'll talk about that, and that's huge. So Coach Legley needs his defense to step up, and having Di Benedetto in the lineup today is massive.
Yeah, absolutely makes a big difference, and we didn't even mention the leading scorer for them, Jesse Candell, who actually has a pretty special connection with the head coach of Locust Valley, Jim Casper. We'll get into that on the broadcast, but he's certainly a talent for the Hawks. A couple of key threats. Cooper Trapetta committed to play at Hofstra next year. Not necessarily the biggest guy in the world, but he is deadly. Already 24 points on this early season, and he's not even their leading scorer last year. That's Frank Smith, who we mentioned had just a monster year for this Hawks team. 74 points as a junior. A little bit of a slower pace this year, only at 19, but he is certainly a dynamic talent in his own right.
And the storyline's Colin Lung, folks. He's a freshman goalie in net for Lynbrook after Kevin Looney, who was off to a great start, got hurt. We'll keep an eye on the netminder for the Owls all game long.
Again, they've lost 4 games in a row. Lung's first 4 starts. Since then, they won 1. So face off to start things off. It's going to be won by Locust Valley, who is in green, and we are underway.
Both of these teams have green, but Lynbrook's wearing the home whites.
So it's Cooper Trapetta running the offense for Locust Valley. We mentioned a Hofstra commit. Last season was also a special offensive player, 26 goals on 87 shots, but this year an even higher clip, already up to 19 right about halfway through the season. He continues to get better and better and better, and joining a really nice program there at Hofstra.
And both of these high schools are college factories. They do graduate lacrosse players that move on to the next level. We'll talk about a lot of these kids throughout the broadcast today.
See how rapidly the ball moves around the crease. That's what Locust Valley likes to do, though. A turnover relatively early on in that possession will return it to the Owls.
Luke Delakici with a ground ball wasn't able to scoop it up, and it's a turnover. Owls ball.
See Joseph DeMonte getting ready to clear it here. Generates a lot of offense for them from the defensive side of the field.
I like the physicality of Ben Ferrara right off the bat, number 33 for Locust Valley. You had mentioned not one of the biggest guys that Jim Casper has, but great face-off guy, and you could see some intensity in the beginning of this contest.
Yeah, he's a guy who really got improved by the competition they've been facing this year. It's been a trial by fire against teams like St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the better lacrosse programs in the nation out of Florida, who came up to play Locust Valley, and also taking on Cold Spring Harbor in that face-off spot. He's gotten a lot better going up against some of the best.
That always helps. When you're playing big-time competition, you're bound to get some improvement in your play.
And there's Frank Smith. He likes to operate behind that net. Him and Trapetta have such good chemistry. You see the roll dodge there. Trapetta weaving in and now firing the first goal of this game in acrobatic fashion from Cooper Trapetta.
Cooper Trapetta with the first goal today for the Falcons. We weren't sure, Gavin, how they would respond off the bat coming from an hour-long trip from the North Shore to the South Shore, but it's the Falcons on the board first.
What do you see on this replay here? Just that the footwork is really astounding.
Yeah, it was just a great move to get by a defender and free himself up for a good look.
Yeah, not the biggest guy in the world, but that almost plays into his favor. You see defenders have a very hard time kind of getting a stick in his line of vision.
Let's see Ferrara here on the faceoff for the Falcons. If Locust Valley can get some momentum early in this game, and he wins it.
Yeah, he's been excellent in the early going of this one. We mentioned forged by fire is Ben Ferrara, though unable to collect that ground ball, so it'll be going the other way.
Now we get Lynbrook with an opportunity here on offense. First time we're going to mention them on the offensive set.
It'll also be interesting to see Locust Valley on the defensive end. It's been a big emphasis for Jim Casper this season. He said, in fact, they're a little bit behind offensively because of how much time they put in the defense, looking like it's paying off right now with Frank Smith streaking towards goal. And that pass picked off nicely by Joe DeMonte.
Big interception there for Lynbrook. They needed that.
Long stick man, and he's so comfortable turning defense into offense, as you see there. So Jake DiBenedetto will run things for Lynbrook.
Well, that was so big, Gavin, because there was an opportunity for Locust Valley to go up 2-0 there. They were close to net, so that interception was momentum changing right here if Lynbrook can put one through.
Absolutely. Lynbrook's offense is defined by balance. You'll see a lot of different guys get touches, a lot of different guys get off shots in that game as Jake Fagan unable to handle that pass, and it will be returned to the Hawks.
Lynbrook a little slow to get started here, obviously just underway, about 9.5 in the first quarter. But surprisingly, it's Locust Valley that seems to have a little bit more energy, a little more pep in their step here as we begin this game.
Yeah, they are certainly playing with some speed. How about that pass? Absolutely dirty from Frank Smith.
Couple of acrobatic passes by the Falcons, just couldn't put it through there, but unbelievable the skill level here. We knew we were going to have a game with tremendous talent, and it's on display.
And it's funny talking to Jim Casper about it because he's been coaching lacrosse on the island for over half a century, which is stunning to even say as the bounce shot misses high off Smith's stick. But it's funny because you hear him talk about this group, but it really is like a little bit of like, oh, those darn kids. Like he loves them, and he says they work extremely hard, and he thinks they're extremely talented. But some of the, I guess, more aesthetically exciting shots, kind of tough. As that one dribbles home as well. What a beautiful little duck in there to get that goal.
Anthony Madsen right there finding some room on the bottom of the net. A little trickeration there by the Falcons. Madsen, we'll talk about that family as the day goes on here. There's a good pass and just underneath beating the goalie. So great job by Madsen. And the Falcons are up 2-0 here on the road.
Yeah, you hinted at it. Both of Anthony's older brothers committed to play at St. John's. I believe, Ben, you were telling me pregame, both got offers right after their freshman year.
Yeah, it was very early in their careers. Unbelievable players. The Madsen twins, as they were known. And the Madsen family continues the lacrosse with two other players on this team, the senior Anthony and his brother John, who's a sophomore.
So Anthony gives Locust Valley an early 2-0 win, or rather lead, on the great little run to the net.
How about Ferrari? You talked about him. Another face-off win here.
Yeah, he's been absolutely dynamic. Jim Casper will tell you he runs like a deer.
Well, you got to win the face-off first before you can run, and I think he's 3 for 3 to start the game.
It's that high level of competition he's been going against all season long. Which it sounds strange to say, but I mean, when you are playing non-conference opponents like St. Thomas Aquinas, it almost makes the island feel easy by comparison. Though he'll certainly face some competition here that's stacks up.
Oh, yeah. And both of these teams have a tough remaining schedule that we'll get into throughout the course of the evening. It's not easy on Long Island. Aquinas is a great team, but there's some great teams on Long Island as well, Cold Spring Harbor being one of them.
Smith, who made that spectacular pass, so good at drawing the defense, and that leaning shot from Trappetta wide of net.
Yeah, that was a long shot. I'm not sure that's a shot that Coach Casper would have wanted in that situation, a little bit forced, but the way things have started for the Falcons, it's hard to fault Trappetta for giving that one a go.
And we get another look at the Lynbrook offense. Haven't gotten a quality shot on net quite yet, while we've seen Colin Lung get peppered on the other end. And when you're going against a goalie of the caliber of Colton Teitelbaum, you kind of figure you just have to get enough looks up there because he's going to save a good amount of them.
Yeah, Lynbrook's got to get going here. They need some offense. Don't want to fall too far behind early in the contest.
Especially against the defense and a goaltender like this. Again, that's an area where Locust Valley, for the most part, has been really strong. Even you look at some of the best teams they played, Cold Spring Harbor, St. Thomas Aquinas, they haven't given up more than 12 goals in either of those two games.
And Lynbrook has enough weaponry here offensively. You talk about Jesse Candell and some other names. I mean, Sean Barrett right there, number 8. He obviously is toughing it out today to play. You're going to look to him to bring some offense here to the Owls.
Barrett, a guy who's really gained a lot of confidence since that Farmingdale game. He sort of knew he was going to be the second guy as early as last season, but never totally got comfortable in that role behind Jesse Candell. This season, a completely new presence, and now he really feels comfortable. And you see it right there. How about that shot? High to low to get it right in the back left corner of the net.
Well, first of all, it's amazing that he's even playing today. As Coach said, a couple of guys sick. He's one of them, so he's toughing it out. Just to be on the field today is amazing. And how about that shot? We'll get another look right here. Catching it high, like you said, going down low, beating Teitelbaum on the ground, basically. It was like a ground ball shot, and it goes in. So good job, Barrett, and it's a 2-1 ball game.
You saw what Tiger Woods did this weekend and got inspired and said, I'm just going to kind of golf this one in right past him, and Teitelbaum wasn't really ready for it. So another face-off. We'll see if the dominance of Ferrara continues. Possession, obviously, so crucial in these games. These coaches will tell you that again and again and again. And if you have the right face-off guy, it makes all the difference in the world.
How crucial is it to get Barrett on the field today? Can you imagine if he wasn't on the field right now? So a lot of credit goes to him, and also Di Benedetto, who is on the face-off right now going up against Ferrara.
That's Jake Di Benedetto, and it was interesting pregame talking to head coach Bill Leahy, or rather Laley, and he was really just saying how different it is for face-off guys, Ben, in the modern game. And it used to be a position for both these coaches have been around for a long time where you just kind of put your best athlete out there. And now it's such a specialized role. Each of them kind of work with individual coaches. And if you don't do that individual skill work day in and day out, you're not going to have a shot at this level. And it's so easy to get exposed. If you lose possession after possession after possession, you're actively costing your team a chance to win.
Face-off guy changes the whole complexity of the game. I mean, it's almost like a basketball mentality, make it and take it. And if you have a face-off guy that can win after goals, the other team doesn't even see the ball, Gavin. So that's how important it is. I mean, last year in the college championships, T.D. Erlin for Albany in his season, he's known as the number one face-off guy in all the land at the college level, and he was a big reason Albany made it to the semifinals last year in Division I college. And so if you get a face-off guy, you're on your way.
And we mentioned, the other key to possession, passing just like this, and Locust Valley really harassing. You don't typically see that from Jesse Candell, completely losing control, trying to recenter it.
Yeah, Lynbrook right now has got to figure something out on the offensive side. I know they put one through, which is good, but right now it just doesn't seem like it's flowing right now for Coach Bill Laley. Obviously, a lot of time in the game.
Now you see that speed from Ben Ferrara that we mentioned, trying to do it all by himself, but the freshman Colin Lung coming up with it.
Yeah, just another shot that I thought was a little bit too far from net. A couple extra passes, get a little bit closer for a more high percentage shot if you're Locust Valley.
It's sort of the story of this whole Locust Valley season. You see right off the bat just an immense amount of talent comparable with the vast majority of the teams on the island as just a vicious check will return the ball to the Hawks. And yet they don't always play with a lot of discipline, and it's come back to bite them a couple of times. As another quick trigger that time from Carlo Paz.
Yeah, but here comes Lynbrook. And on the series before, offensively, I didn't catch the player's name for the Owls. Had an opportunity for a shot and dodged instead. I think if Coach will see that back tonight, he'll say, take that shot. Any chance you get for an open look, you got to take that shot.
So perhaps a little bit too much caution from one side, a little bit too much aggression from the other. We'll see what the right balance is. Running offense behind the cage was Candell.
Yeah, Lynbrook's got the guys they want on the field right now. Di Benedetto, you got Barrett, you got Candell. This is their offense. This has to go to work here.
Getting very meticulous. And it's come back to bite them a few times with either turnovers or near turnovers. That time, Jake Di Benedetto unable to chase it down. And just a total contrast to styles. As you see the speed right here, and the goal, putting it in. Back of net on a flamethrower, Luke Delasici, a sophomore attack man. Casper extremely excited about his game.
Yeah, wide open look for number 24, as you'll see it coming down right now. The extra pass that time, they didn't have that before. They were taking longer shots. It's almost like they heard me up here in the press box. An extra pass can lead to a better shot, and there you go, successful goal.
And to your point, it doesn't necessarily preclude them from playing with tempo. That was rapid fire, right. But it was also they didn't force anything in the process.
Correct, and we're going to get a change of face-off now for Lynbrook.
And it's interesting because they were in the past very, very comfortable with how Jake DiBenedetto's been doing this year, but it is funny that they're switching so early because Bill Laley was saying, on a night-to-night basis, you never know. The competition level's so high, some nights you're just not going to have it. So instead it's David Becker, number 6 in there,
yep.
And he nearly wins it, but Ferrara with the speed able to come up with it.
I also think it's a good idea to give Ferrara a different look. It's important for him not to feel too comfortable right there on the face-off. So I like what Coach Laley did right there, put somebody else in, and it almost paid off.
So here's Joe DeMonte with it, number 1. Or rather, he gave it up now. 3-sport athlete to Becker.
See what Lynbrook's defense can do here as Locust Valley settles down on the offensive set. Most of Locust Valley's goals, like you said, have kind of come on a transition play.
Another good attempt at a duck in there by Ferrara, but unable to collect, luckily. There to save for the Hawks is Smith.
Jack Dorney also getting a stick in there defensively. Doing a nice job for the Owls.
Takeaways galore and possession switch back and forth. Ferrara able to collect, though. He really has a nose for the ball.
A lot of ground ball opportunities in this game early.
Smith and him play catch. Now you're seeing a little bit of patience from the Locust Valley side. Again, 3-5 on the year. Looking to add to it, and that'll certainly help. A rocket from way outside. Cooper Trepida again on the goal, already up to 19 on the season.
And the Falcons are on fire here off the bus here in the first quarter. Let's take another look. Nice little move there, and no hesitation whatsoever. And he had the lane there, Gavin. No interference, and it's another goal for the Falcons.
So they take a 4-1 advantage as we near the end of quarter number 1. Locust Valley again looking for revenge after a 15-8 playoff loss at the hands of the same Lynbrook team last year. And the Hawks, for all their talent, just weren't very consistent last season. Jim Casper saying it's only his second year with the program, and he made the point that they didn't really have much of an offseason. So timeout taken. We'll take a break with them here on Varsity Media. Back to action. It's been all Locust Valley in the early going of this one. How have they controlled this game, Ben?
Their shot selection has been great. They've had more opportunities to shoot the ball. They haven't been as hesitant as I think Lynbrook has on their offensive end. And honestly, Gavin, it could be even more. It could be 5, 6, 7 to 1 if some of those longer shots that Locust Valley took landed in the net. So, Lynbrook off to a slow start. We know offensively they can play. They've put tons of goals on the board this season, so I would expect them to answer here. It was a good timeout by Bill Laley, regroup the guys, reset, Benedetto back out there for the faceoff, and let's see if Lynbrook can make something happen here off the timeout.
You can make an argument. John Benedetto and Sean Barrett, two of their three most important players. We were told early in the day it was very unlikely they were going to play. Both considered very ill. They're apparently playing through it. That could certainly be a factor for this Lynbrook team not operating at 100%.
But Barrett does have a goal, the lone goal for the Owls.
Ferrara nearly ran that one down. What a chase for it. And officials say it goes the direction of the Owls.
That's what they need. They need a couple of breaks and see if they can make something happen. See if Barrett, who's got the ball in his stick, can make something happen here offensively.
Such an easy handle for Barrett. You see him just kind of rock the cradle back and forth, and he's just such a big guy. Doesn't really get bothered by defenders kind of hounding him.
Lynbrook being patient right now, Gavin, which is good. Work it around for the right shot instead of forcing.
Yeah, certainly not as quick hitting as their counterparts.
A little more methodical approach, if you will. Trying to set something up offensively here. Almost seems as if they're playing it like they're a man up, even though they're not. And again, no shot clock in high school lacrosse, so they can take all the time they want and get a good shot off.
And it's a testament again to this Locust Valley zone that's really been coming on strong in the last couple of weeks. The basis of it is it's very similar to a basketball-style zone where you're constantly hedging on defense, and the idea is that you're guarding two players at once. You step in the direction of a player with the ball, but just enough to sort of induce him to pass it, and then you jump over to the next guy. So you constantly get 2-on-1s as a defender, and I'm not sure about you, Ben, but just on paper, very hard to beat when it's executed correctly.
Not only that, the coaching has been incredible. I mean, Jim Casper, who's a legendary lacrosse coach here in Nassau County, years at Long Beach, and now Lynbrook thinks that one went in, but no signal by the referee, and that'll end the first quarter. We'll talk about Jim Casper in the second.
So a 4-1 lead for Locust Valley, dominant defensively, explosive on the offensive end. They're in control after one on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Second quarter about to get underway here at Marion Street Elementary. It's Locust Valley in control after a quarter. They're up 4-1. Gavin Shaw, Ben Turchin with you on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Ben, you go over Locust Valley's season, and it's one where they had a variety of players missing in the early going, and I think their record at 3-5 might be a little bit deceptively poor. They were missing Frank Smith against Hewlett, had a couple defenders out against Port Washington and Cary, and then the other two losses just sort of ran into buzzsaws in St. Thomas Aquinas out of Florida, one of the best high school athletic programs in the nation. Cold Spring Harbor, they lost 11-3, but outside of those two games and the one-goal losses to Port Washington and Cary, they've been fairly dominant. over the course of this season.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. And then when you look at their remaining schedule, we'll talk about this as the entire game goes on. They got St. Dom's coming up, and they've got Syosset coming up, but those aren't league games. So Coach Casper cares about North Shore, cares about Mineola, cares about Wantagh, cares about Floral Park, which is their upcoming schedule in league play. And those are the ones he wants, including today. This is a big game for both teams in league play.
Ben Ferrara continues to dominate in that face-off circle. I think he's won every one this game. Maybe on a ground ball, Linwood might have gained possession once, but it's at least 6 for 7 or so far for Ferrara.
Yeah, Ferrara's been a big difference maker today for the Falcons, part of the reason they have this 4-1 lead.
Smith was trying to set something up for him in front of net there. Instead, they'll slow it down, a rare thing for this Hawks team in the game with David Hill. Smith held off for a second. Did that one find a way in?
I think it did.
Wow, how about that?
Frank Smith, I think, turning around. I don't think the goalie saw him. Everybody's standing around like, did that just happen? And it did.
I'll give Colin Lung some credit because I didn't see him. He darted in front of net, and it was over before you could even blink.
But it doesn't seem like the Falcons are celebrating a goal. It's very confusing. It is a goal. They put it on the board. It is 5-1. And you know what I was going to say prior to that going in is a big difference in this game is Locust Valley is getting easy looks. They're just getting more looks. The looks are easier. And Lynbrook it's harder for Lynbrook to develop a shot. And that's really a big difference in this game today so far.
Absolutely. And, you could give credit to that Locust Valley zone, or conversely, you could say Lynbrook just not executing at their typically high level offensively. Because this is a team, we've said it time and time again, despite the poor record, certainly a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball between Candell, Barrett, and you look at even some of the tertiary pieces, and they have guys with a lot of experience who are fairly accomplished at this level. And how about that rapid-fire pass into the one-timer for Buck Andrea, and a big-time save by the freshman Colin Lung.
Just look at their last 3 games for the Owls. They put up 6 goals in a loss to North Shore. They put up 8 goals in a loss to Seaford. And they put up 9 goals in last week against Friends Academy, so in a win. So it's not like they can't score. Just a matter of something has to click here in this game for them to get going.
Trying to do just that now as Fagan rounds a corner. Jack Fagan, a senior, coming off torn ACLs in each knee. So it really is just an incredible comeback story. The fact that he's even still playing, and according to his head coach, he's nearing 100% right now. Certainly a big guy. They expect him to handle against some really tough defenders, and he's been doing a solid job of it this year.
See, Lynbrook still looking for a good shot offensively, swinging things around, but not really penetrating that zone, Gavin, that you've been talking about. It's been difficult for the Owls to really break through that. And we left the first quarter talking about Jim Casper and the legend that he is as a head coach, been around for, I hate to say forever, but for many years.
52,
yeah,
specifically.
I didn't want to say that.
I know, we're going to throw it out. I think it's an accomplishment. I don't see it as a negative.
I didn't want to age him, but you threw it out there. 52 years, a lot of that at Long Beach and the program that he ran there. Not too far away here from Lynbrook. And now doing his thing at Locust Valley, and you see the defensive philosophy he's instilled here on the Falcons. It's paying off.
Yeah, obviously you're around that amount of time. You get to kind of pick and choose what you like because you've seen everything, you've experienced it all, and you're like, you know what, this is the best way to play lacrosse. And right now it's proving true as the yellow flag flies. An aggressive check to try and win it back that time, and it'll cost Linwood.
Well, if Lynbrook is a man down, they're going to have to step up defensively. Already down 4-1, as it looks like Cameron Fable, number 7, is going to come off the field, and should be a 1-minute penalty here, man up for Locust Valley.
And really the last thing that Lynbrook could afford right now to be down a man with the way they're getting picked apart, even when they have the full scope of their team.
Yeah, we'll see. This could be a momentum swing here for Lynbrook if they're able to kill this man up and get something going offensively. So let's pay attention to how they work this defensively. But again, another opportunity here for the Falcons on the flip side.
Just a lot of decisiveness for Locust Valley. You don't see a second of hesitation in terms of who the next person to get the ball is.
Yeah, the Falcons are a smaller team, but a quicker team. Lynbrook, you can tell from the field, they're a little taller, a little more physical. But that has not affected the Falcons. You see it right there.
Absolutely not. Another bullet from Frank Smith. So that's his second goal. And Locust Valley in total control with 8.5 minutes left in the second quarter.
Well, you're just going to look at this lane here, and I know it's man up for them, but when you see Frankie Smith's shot, you're going to see that this is an uncontested shot. Nobody in his face, nobody through the line, a straight shot. And I don't care if you're a freshman in net. That's a difficult shot to defend when you have no interference between the offensive player and you. And with the speed like that, 9 times out of 10, that's going in.
And you got to wonder just how healthy John D. Benedetto is. We mentioned that he is in the lineup today, but not currently on the field, and he's sort of their rock on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment by you, as they are going to move some guys in and out at faceoff. Lynbrook is. It's not easy to play faceoff to begin with, and if you're a little under the weather, going up against a really good player in Ferrara, Coach Liley might need to switch things up throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, well, they've mostly used, I think, the other Di Benedetto, Jake, in that faceoff spot. But I was just saying defensively, I mean, I haven't really seen number 5 out there very much. Maybe I'm missing him, but, I mean, John, also the quarterback on the football team, so just a guy who plays a crucial role for this group. And when he's not out there, it's a completely different team.
No doubt about it. More long shooting opportunities here for Locust Valley. That one doesn't go.
Would you like them to show a little bit more patience, or they're so dominant right now you can't even question it? And who am I to question it? Because another one just went down this time for Buck Andrea.
Really, everything's working for the Falcons right now. I mean, it might have been a situation where they caught a lot of steam midway through the season, just ran into Cold Spring Harbor. But from what we're seeing right now against a very good Lynbrook team, as you see that one go through for Andrea, they are, like you said, they're firing on all cylinders. You would not know, and this is what I talked about in the open. You look at this team on the field. Does this look like a 3-5 team to you? This is not a 3-5 team.
No, absolutely not. And we said again, it's a product of injuries. It's a product of the level of the competition. 2 of those 5 losses were just by a single goal. And then the other 2, you look at St. Thomas Aquinas and Cold Spring Harbor. I mean, you could say just about any team on the island is capable of losing to those 2.
I will just say this. If Locust Valley can continue this momentum and ride it throughout the rest of the season, you will see the Falcons somewhere in the postseason, semifinal. Maybe they even get to the championship game in their conference. I wouldn't put it past them. Obviously, Cold Spring Harbor is there. Obviously, Wantagh is there. And we'll have that game, by the way. We'll have Wantagh at Cold Spring Harbor coming up on April 29th in this conference. So, but I would think that the Falcons, the way that they're playing, Gavin, if they can continue this, and it looks like they're hot right now, I'd expect them to be there towards the end of the year.
No, absolutely, and I don't even want to. We didn't even get to spend much time on it. That goal by Buck Andrea, especially on replay, absolutely dirty. That little dodge was just rapid fire from him.
And it's hard on the Lynbrook defensively side, on their side, because you have so many offensive weapons to defend for Locust Valley. If you stop Andrea, you're dealing with somebody else. You're dealing with Trepida. There's just the list goes on guys that Smith that can come at you, firing shots if you're the Lynbrook defense. So not an easy task today for them.
Yeah, a little bit of a frustration shot from Jack Rogers there. I actually thought that was shaping up to be one of Lynbrook's better possessions on the day, and instead Rogers sort of forced a shot when no opening came up, and Colton Teitelbaum, he hasn't had to do a whole lot today, but the senior heading to Loyola next year makes another nice save.
When his name has been called, he stepped up. Obviously a collegiate player for Locust Valley, just another weapon on this team.
Yeah, they think he's going to start next year at Loyola. So, I mean, and that's obvious. When you can say that a year out, you're dealing with just an immense talent, widely considered to be one of the best goaltenders on the island, is Teitelbaum, though hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to prove that title today.
Well, we said at the top that both of these schools and areas are lacrosse factories, especially Locust Valley. He's not the only one. Obviously, Cooper Trepid is on his way to Hofstra. Full scholarship for him. Congratulations to him. And the list goes on and on. The Matson twins are at St. John's right now from Locust Valley. This program has been very successful. Both programs have. Lynbrook has a Long Island championship. You go back 2014, the Owls have a Long Island championship.
Two talented groups. Right now, Locust Valley, though, showing it a little bit more on the Varsity Media Sports Network as we head to a break. Back to action, and I feel like we've said this a few times. Locust Valley continues to dominate this one, up 7-1. The Falcons have been probably playing their best game of the season. Again, this Lynbrook team, no pushover, but the Hawks have controlled this game from the opening whistle.
Yeah, if you're Coach Jim Casper, you couldn't have expected a better start here, or you couldn't have expected your team to play as well as they have been here to begin. Or not really begin. We're almost towards the end here of the first half. So Locust Valley playing some great lacrosse. And, Gavin, we might look back at the Cold Spring Harbor game as just a little bit of a slip-up, a little bit of a hurdle in the rest of the schedule, because you said it yourself. I mean, wins against Friends, wins against Seaford, win against Bethpage, and there they get St. Dom's coming up on Thursday. They're hot right now.
And again, the losses across the board, just really high quality, which sounds like a strange thing to say, and no high school coach ever wants to hear that, but it certainly is the case, and you see another excellent save with the high stick from Teitelbaum.
Not only are the losses against good competition, but they're close games. Port Washington, a 6-5 loss, and Coach Casper didn't even have a full squad in that game. Cary, a 9-8 loss, 1-goal losses. Locust Valley could easily be 500 or better right now.
How about that check and recovery from Trepida to win that one back? Jump pass inside, extra look right on net, the goal of the day. Tic-tac-toe passing, and it finishes with Buck Andrea.
What more can you say, folks? Locust Valley firing on all cylinders here. We'll take another look at this. You like the unselfish play.
Trepida was falling down as he made that pass.
And the beneficiary, Buck Andrea, picking up, I think, his second goal of the day.
Andrea, he giveth and he taketh away for Jim Casper, who I think said, quote, "You live with the bad and hope for the good" with Buck. He highly skilled, has a propensity for this spectacular play, and sometimes he'll leave you shaking your head, but there are also those moments like that, those brilliant finishes, and the freshman goalie that time, Colin Long, just didn't really have much of a chance.
And there's a face-off win by Lynbrook. Di Benedetto with his first of the day.
Yeah, we mentioned they switched him off for a little bit, brought him back on, and he, at least that time, able to solve the puzzle that's been Ben Ferrara in this game.
Now let's see Lynbrook go to work here offensively. They have the weapons. They have the guys that can get something through the net. It's got to execute at this point right now. Not out of this game. Just have to execute.
Only goal of this game in the opening few minutes by Sean Barrett, who's noted a couple times not even playing at 100%.
Yeah, he wasn't even supposed to play. Nevertheless, start and has a goal in this game. Pretty amazing stuff by number 8.
He's chasing down this ground ball now, and you see not necessarily attacking it with his typical fervor, maybe wearing down a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point by you right there. You could kind of tell.
So Carlo Paz, who brings a lot of size to the table, 3-sport athlete, 6'1", getting it up and setting up another goal for Frank Smith, who has a hat trick.
Smith's third goal of the game. And Locust Valley has really spread the wealth, a bunch of different guys scoring, and that's what makes it so difficult for Lynbrook. Who do you guard? Here you see it one more time. Ferrara with the assist. And just another zip shot there. So difficult to defend.
And for Smith, it's been somewhat of a frustrating season. He missed the opening game of the year after actually picking up 2 techs in a basketball playoff game and had to come in a little bit late. Obviously, the level of competition has been extremely high and not executing at the pace that he was on last year, where he just had an absurdly good season, 47 goals, 27 assists. Just 16-3 so far this year, but you see him starting to round into form, the 4-year starter with the hat trick, now approaching 20 goals on the season.
Yeah, and I'm sure those technical fouls during basketball, an aberration of the kind of player that he is, the kind of person that he is. Locust Valley sorely needs him, as you can see. Here's a turnover. And a nice save.
Yeah, Colin Long, again, he hasn't had his best day, but he hasn't really been given an opportunity by his defense, particularly with Di Benedetto not at 100%, but Bill Laley is actually extremely high on his freshman, and it's sort of an incredible circumstance. It's the first time in his 25 seasons he's had a freshman starter for any sustained amount of time. So another timeout. We'll take another break on the Varsity Media Sports Network. So it's now 9-1 in Locust Valley's favor. And Ben, we were just kind of going over it during the break. This was not the expectation on the game. On the day, we genuinely expected a really competitive game and just haven't seen the best of this Lynbrook group.
I think Lynbrook, they're fighting an uphill battle right now. Obviously, the goalie situation until Lung really gets his feet under him. Middle of the season for a freshman to start in net when he wasn't expected to. That's tough. And I think you said defensively they're adjusting to that, and it might take a while. So I know they had a nice win against Friends last week. As you see a goal right there.
Yeah, nice little.
Jesse Candell, I think, put that one through.
Yeah, late bounce on that shot, and it was a tough look to beat Teitelbaum, who was actually in fairly good position, went to the other side of the net, got it past him.
Let's take another look here at Candell's shot. Nice pass. And that was contested, folks. And that's the difference in this game. Lynbrook shots are contested. Locust Valley's haven't been so much. Locust Valley has been able to get easier looks than Lynbrook has, at least on the offensive side. But give credit to Candell right there. Got another goal here for Lynbrook, and we'll see if they can build some momentum with 2:27 left to go in the game.
Yeah, Jesse Candell, just a fabulous young kid who's been around the game his entire life. In fact, his grandfather, Mike Candell, gave Jim Casper his first ever job coaching lacrosse at Nassau Community College in the late 1960s, which I just found to be incredible. So the connection between the coach and the player and the star player on the other side really just interlaced.
That's an unbelievable story. That one you can't make up. And by the way, on that face-off after the goal, Di Benedetto with another win for Lynbrook. So I think that's 2 in a row now for Di Benedetto. So he must have found something clicking here for Lynbrook. They need to capitalize late in the second quarter here. A goal would be fantastic for the Owls.
And trying to build a little bit of momentum into the half, and if they do, who knows? Though a good bit of defending there from the Hawks will stifle that pursuit, at least for the moment. Teitelbaum coming up with it.
Lynbrook is too good of a team, too well coached. I would expect them to have some sort of comeback in this game. I don't think this is the last we're going to hear from the Owls today.
But again, the transition has been absolutely deadly for Locust Valley. Look at that passing. Andrea turns, fires. Oh, just missed it. But again, the ball movement for Jim Casper's squad has been delightful.
I mean, we've been doing a bunch of games so far, and I don't think we've seen the ball movement that we've seen from Locust Valley today. We have not seen the team move the ball as effectively and as crisply as Locust Valley has today. And we're going to see a lot of good teams with the remaining part of our live stream schedule. By the way, we thank everybody for joining us today here on the Varsity Media YouTube channel. Here comes Locust Valley again.
Another prime opportunity on net. Long able to hold up, at least for the moment. Toughness from the freshman, who, despite giving up 9 goals, still very engaged in this one. And it took a miracle to keep that one out of net.
Well, Lynbrook's got to get going here. 48 seconds to go. Left in the half. And another turnover for the Owls. That's not what they needed here at the end of the half.
Now, and you got to figure with this lead, Locust Valley just going to hold for the final shot. Timeout taken by Jim Casper. So we'll go to break with it with 39 seconds left. Falcons up by 7 with the ball. First half dying down. Falcons looking to add to a 7-goal lead, but let's take advantage of the break to look at our upcoming schedule here on Varsity Media.
Yeah, it's a very good, exciting schedule, and we've got 3 games this week. So tomorrow we're at Hewlett, Cary versus Hewlett, and then on Thursday, Farmingdale at Bethpage. That's actually a 6:30 start. They just changed that game, and we'll look at the rest of the schedule coming up here as there's more action on the field. But this is a crazy week for Varsity Media. We thank everybody for tuning in. All our streams are free on our YouTube channel, which you're watching right now. If you want to pass it along to a friend, youtube.com/Varsity Media. And we ask everybody to subscribe to our channel for updates like the Bethpage game, which is moved to 6:30. So it's good reason to subscribe for updates as we continue on with this game here, Gavin, that has been fast-moving.
Yeah, Tripetta, another brilliant pass over to Smith, who fired it right off the pole. One final gasp with just under 10 seconds to go, approaching 10 seconds rather, in the half. Look at that ball movement. Oh, just missing the net. Winning it back with some hustle with Sean Barrett. But a golden opportunity there. So 5 seconds. Here comes Barrett. Fires in front of net. No one there. Shot bounces in.
That's good.
At the buzzer, they say it counts. And a little bit of life for Lynbrook to end the half. How about that bullet to beat the timer by Cameron Fable?
Fable, the right man at the right time at the right place, off the long rebound, throws it in, and the referee correctly signaled that that was a buzzer beater. I was looking at the clock as he fired that in, and he beat it. And there's a little bit of momentum. All right, Lynbrook on the board with 3, but maybe they could take that to the locker room feeling a little more confident in this game.
Yeah, you got to figure Jim Casper going to give his team a piece of his mind. They had an opportunity to hold for the final shot, went a little bit early. Smith nearly put it in off the pole, and instead a transition opportunity for the Owls gives them a little bit of juice heading into the locker room. We'll take a break on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Be back in 10 with the rest of this one.
Now is the time to sign up with Varsity Media for this year's lacrosse season. We offer competitive filming rates for full season coverage of your team. Varsity Media also offers action photography during the lacrosse season as well. Now is the time to sign up with Varsity Media for this year's lacrosse season. We offer competitive filming rates for full season coverage of your team. Varsity Media also offers action photography during the lacrosse season as well. To learn more about our services, visit varsitymedia.net or give us a call today.
And welcome back, folks. Ben Turchin and Gavin Shaw from Marion Street School, Sid Covert Field. Our score at the half, the Locust Valley Falcons 9 and the Lynbrook Owls 3, but that did include a buzzer-beating goal to end the first half, rather, as you see the Locust Valley Falcons with much-needed rest here at halftime as Coach Jim Casper is talking to the team. Once again, we want to give you our upcoming schedule here on the Varsity Media live stream here on YouTube, and we thank you all for joining us each and every game. And a reminder, all of our streams are free and can be accessed at youtube.com/varsitymedia. And we do ask that you subscribe to our channel for updates, which we'll tell you about the reason why in a second here. But we've got a great week. It's just getting going here at Lynbrook. Tomorrow, we stay on the South Shore for another boys matchup, Cary visiting Hewlett, and that will be a great Class B showdown. Both teams off to decent starts, Hewlett especially, and I know that is a game that our entire crew is looking forward to. And then on Thursday, Farmingdale and Bethpage. Those are crosstown rivals, folks. It doesn't get any better than that, and there is a time change in that game we wanted to make you aware of. The Farmingdale-Bethpage game got moved to a 6:30 start, so it'll be an evening game under the lights of Bethpage on Thursday. And then after spring break, we come back with another big-time matchup. The Wantagh Warriors travel to Cold Spring Harbor. That'll be April 29th, another evening game under the lights. And then Syosset and Massapequa on May 1st. Talk about some big-time showdowns. That is a big-time showdown for sure. So that's a look at our upcoming schedule. When we come back, we'll have the second half. After this, you're watching high school lacrosse on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Welcome back here at halftime. Again, our score is 9-3. Locust Valley in the lead. A very impressive first half showing by the Falcons as we're moments away here from the second half. It's Ben Turchin, it's Gavin Shaw. Our halftime score, again, 9-3, but an exciting end to the half with that buzzer beater goal.
Yeah, absolutely, and you just got the feeling that Lynbrook needed it because this game has been dominated by Locust Valley from the jump, completely in control, and we even got the sense that they could have had a bigger lead, and instead Lynbrook coming back, getting that final goal. It was sort of a two-goal switch, if you will, because Locust Valley, they had the possession with 30 seconds left, the opportunity to hold for the final shot. Frank Smith probably missed adding to their lead by inches, and that turnaround, you got to figure it gives Lynbrook a little bit of momentum, but you get the feeling Ben Moore is going to have to change than that because Locust Valley, it wasn't a deceptive 9-3 lead. They dominated that half.
They absolutely did. Frank Smith led the way with 4 goals for the Falcons. Cooper Trepida added 2. Buck Andrea with 2 himself, and Madsen with a goal to round it out for the Falcons. Was a barrage of goal scoring in the first half, and we'll see if Lynbrook's defense is up to the task, Gavin. They really need to get going defensively, not only to help out their young goalie, but also to stop the bleeding, if you will, a little bit here against the Falcons. They have to stop the scoring. Yeah,
absolutely, and we noted a couple times in that first half, probably the biggest factor in that defense looking, I mean, for lack of a better term, inept for a lot of that first half. John DiBenedetto, their leader on that side, all-county honorable mention last season. Really good face-off guy in his own right. We haven't seen him much in that position. He is not operating at 100%, him and Sean Barrett. We were told this morning both were very ill, unlikely to play. Both decided to tough it out. And yet we haven't seen a whole lot of DiBenedetto, so maybe he's in a worse position than Barrett is. As you see in the face-off circle this time, it's no relation, Jake DiBenedetto.
Right, Jake has been the face-off guy throughout the first half, and he has a couple of wins against Ferrara, but like you said, it hasn't been too much of the other DiBenedetto.
Ferrara dominant throughout most of that first half. Won, I think, the first 4 or 5 face-offs of this game, and it just set the tone early on for Locust Valley. Trying to do just that here. It's, if you're just joining us, Locust Valley in green-white, the secondary color. The reverse for Lynbrook, the home team. It was a long trip for Locust Valley to get here, over an hour away, but they're making the most of it as Ferrara tries to start the second half with a bang, and running and hustling to ensure it's not all for naught is Delicici, who got the opening goal of this one. Hasn't done much since, but good hustle from him there.
It's almost like a repeat how the first half opened up off the face-off win and a goal right away. And now Locust Valley will have a little bit more work to do here.
Smith just loves operating behind that cage. Had a hat trick in the first half. Again, we mentioned, at least by his standards, a relatively slow start to the season for Smith. Came into this game with 16 goals after boasting 44 last year, which is just a crazy number.
You don't see a turnover too often by the Falcons there. Andrea, not sure if there was a miscommunication error on the pass, if Smith wasn't ready for it, but the Owls will capitalize here.
Lynbrook trying to build on that goal to end the half. It hasn't been crisp for the most part. And we've seen they've put together decent sequences of passing, but it feels like all that ball movement hasn't necessarily accomplished anything because they're not really manipulating or, I guess, disturbing the defense in any significant way.
Well, I think you had mentioned how good this defense has been for the Falcons. And obviously Coach Casper has some things working defensively for Locust Valley. And that's been a struggle for Lynbrook in the first half. So we don't know at the locker room what Coach Bill Laley had told his team. Maybe they made an adjustment here in the second half, and it remains to be seen as we're just underway here in quarter number 3.
And you see Fable, number 7 in white, back out there for Lynbrook. Not necessarily a guy who's played a significant role offensively for them all year, but did get that buzzer-beating goal to end the half that usually enough to earn you some extra PT in the second.
Yeah, we'll see if he could be the spark plug that Lynbrook sorely needs right now.
Right now, you're seeing more of the same as what we saw in the first half, right, Ben? With Locust Valley, they're hardly breaking a sweat, just kind of jogging around, and they've been in position.
Well, somebody on this Owls team is going to have to make a break for the cage with a good look and a good pass for an easy score. That's how you get back into this game. But there has to be a move made here at some point, Gavin, you would think.
Yeah, because not eventually you're going to turn it over, and down by 6 goals, can't rely on just winning possession.
Either that or they're just trying to tire out the Locust Valley deep. There you go. There's a good look.
And not enough of it. Barrett denied by Teitelbaum, who gets another save going low the second time. What brilliant defense from the netminder, Colton Teitelbaum. Back-to-back on the saves. Finally, Lynbrook made their move, and Teitelbaum, he was ready for it.
Well, Di Benedetto, I believe it was number 5, who had a chance there, point-blank range, but that's what Lynbrook needs. A pass, a good look. It didn't fall, and they'll have to continue. It wasn't Di Benedetto, my mistake. It was actually Sean Barrett, number 8, who was in front of the cage there. It was a good save, but, like they say in basketball, keep shooting. Lynbrook has to get more opportunities like that.
Already progress from the first half. Lynbrook had similar possession in the first, but ended up eventually making a mistake so far on this one. They've been fairly impeccable with their passing and catching, and right as I say that, the one-timer off the face mask of Jack Fagan, excuse me.
But that wasn't really necessary, Gavin. Right? Catch it and then take a good shot. He had at least a couple of seconds there to regroup. I'm not sure why it was such a quick shot.
Yeah, if we're going to continue our mixed sports analogies, it's almost the receiver who starts running before securing the football.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting play there. But the good news is for Lynbrook is they're getting a couple of looks. They're not falling right now, but they are getting opportunities. And that is the difference I've seen here to start the third quarter that we didn't see too much of in the first half. The passing here, even in this possession, Gavin, has been better. So they have come out here in the second half looking like a little bit of a different team.
Yeah, you got to figure at some point, though, you need individual brilliance. Jesse Candell, the guy who's given it to them most often throughout his career, able to draw 2 defenders there, and a foul was Fable, who got the buzzer beater in that second quarter. So he continues to make stuff happen off the bench for this Owls group.
Looks like this, I was going to say, it looked like it was going to be on Trepida as he was jogging off to the sideline.
So extra man offense opportunity for Lynbrook. And again, just about 4 minutes gone in this third quarter. Still plenty of time to take advantage of it.
It actually was Intrepida. Looks like it was Ferrara if he stays in the box.
And that's obviously a big deal because if you get a goal, you also don't have to take the face-off against Ferrara. So officials still figuring this out.
It's a 1-minute foul, so it'll be man up for Lynbrook. And Gavin, they have to capitalize. I mean, there's just no way to sugarcoat this. This is a much-needed opportunity here. If you're the Owls, you have to convert, get this to 9-4 with about 8:06 to play.
And we'll see if they can operate with some urgency because that's been missing at points.
Well, the defense has been so good for the Falcons, but now you're down a man. You would think that should open up some lanes here for Lynbrook to have at least 1 or 2 good looks on net.
And it's a good test for Locust Valley. The whole base of their defense is guarding 2 men at once as that one bounces hard off the pole. And what hustle to try and get it back, winning the race as they've done all day long is Locust Valley.
That was a great shot, but Teitelbaum has been even better. That was off his knee. I don't know if you saw it on the cameras, caught it, but he was gingerly rubbing his knee after that. He has played so well that even with that great shot, he still comes up with a way. Without even using his net with his stick, he still has the save.
But how about that hustle from David Hill to get it back? But they turn it right over, so it's Lynbrook ball with the EMO time dying down. A run from Barrett into the back of the net. Herculean effort from Sean Barrett playing through illness. He has his second goal. And Lynbrook is back within 5.
Big players step up big in big games. This is a big game for the Owls. Here's a guy that wasn't even supposed to play today. Suit up and make it happen. Second goal of the day. Man up. Opportunity, I should say, and he hammers it home. Great shot. Teitelbaum not able to save that one. And now it's a 9-4 game. So it was 9-2 with 7 seconds in the first half. Now it's 9-4. It's a much different looking game now, Gavin.
He gave a little pump fake there, but not even a dodge. That was pure force from Sean Barrett. He was going to the cage and was essentially saying to the Locust Valley defense, try and stop me. No one could.
Lynbrook is too good of a team for them to falter the entire game. We knew that they were going to put an effort here at home. Both teams really want this game. We can't stress that enough in conference play. And here they are right now, folks, and a little bit of momentum on the face-off win. Now there's a turnover.
Yeah, Di Benedetto was absolutely hounded, but he's been controlling that face-off circle since losing time and time again in the early going to Ferrara, winning his last 3 now. And now one-man run for Smith. Easy setup in front of net. Tic-tac-toe passing once again for the Hawks. Ends with Cooper Trepida, who has a hat trick in his own right.
I actually think Long had a save for a second, but off the rebound, I believe it was Trepida who was there, clean away. We'll take another look at that. And off the rebound, I mean, you can't defend that. Here you go. There is a little bit of a save, but he cleans it up.
Yeah, it was hard to gauge. It looked like a pass initially because it bounced so perfectly to Trepida. And just another tough break for Long, who makes a really good play on the initial shot, but again, no defense there to bail him out.
And not only no defense, but give credit to Trepida, who was in the right place at the right time. I mean, he was positioned himself exactly where he should be in the event that a rebound came his way. And once the goalie makes the move for the save, he's already out of position at that point, Gavin. So it's an easy look into the cage, and that's what happened for Locust Valley.
Isn't that kind of the story of this game, though? Just the proactivity of this Locust Valley team and the speed and the hustle they played with. They've been in the right position at the right time, time after time in this one.
100%. And that's a backbreaker, too, for the Owls. They just fight back, get the goal on the man up, and then to come right back and give one up to Locust Valley. That is a backbreaker for sure. So they're going to have to regroup.
And the quick turnover hurts as well, though. They try to take it away from Madsen here. Anthony got the first goal of the game for Locust Valley.
Candel's got to go. Candel's got to go.
Yeah, Candel trying.
He was hesitant, Gavin. He was looking for a player, but he had a leg up. He had the room to run to the cage, and he should have gone with his instincts right away, and who knows, maybe it would have been a different story.
Yeah, you question, not to take anything away from Locust Valley because of how good they've been, but maybe just how widespread that illness is throughout the team. Because it just seems like a sluggish group for Lynbrook throughout this one, with the exception of a couple of possessions. If anything, Sean Barrett has shown the most heart of anyone on this Owls team, despite not being at 100%. It's sometimes hard to tell whether it's effort, it's an illness, or just the excellent defense of the Hawks that's really making Lynbrook so hesitant throughout this one. Candel, again, a little bit of a window there and didn't fire right away.
I wouldn't say the effort's not there for Lynbrook. I believe the effort is there. These are talented kids. They want to win. I think part of it might be, and we don't know the full story, what's going on in that locker room, so we don't know, if it's a flu situation, what's going around. You don't really know, but you hope that the kids are healthy. But yeah, Locust Valley is playing phenomenally today. That's the bottom line. That is the storyline within the game, is how well the Falcons have played. But I don't think it's because of a lack of effort.
Yeah.
At least I'm not seeing that on my end here with the Owls.
No, I should have phrased that better. I should say it's more of a hesitancy. They've been indecisive at points throughout this game, and that's again not for lack of trying. It's a little different than what you'd expect from this Locust Valley group.
They have been a step slower than Locust Valley. I think it's fair to say on this game they have been a step slower. And I think you're right. They have been a little, at times they've been hesitant on what to do with the ball. But that can all change here. 4:50 to go in the third quarter. Stranger things have happened. But it does take them a while. It's a little more difficult for Lynbrook to get a shot on goal than we've seen for Locust Valley.
Yeah, not even comparable. We've seen just those quick trigger possessions from the Hawks. That's sort of, at least from, in my mind, the story that's going to come out of this one, just how rapidly they're able to execute offensively and put the ball in the back of the net. It's almost the three-man weave that Lynbrook's operating now offensively, just that repeated circling. And
they need more urgency. You've brought it up before, and now is the time where the urgency has to be there. The clock is running. It's not your friend right now. You're down by 6 goals. You want to get a good shot, but at the same time, you've got to get a quicker step to the cage.
And that time we finally saw Candell just try and take it himself and said, you know what, I'm just going to bully my way to the cage, and unable to fully get over there.
But they maintain possession. So another opportunity here for the Owls.
Di Benedetto's been largely quiet on the offensive end, Jake specifically. And Bill Laley told him preseason that he had a chance to be the most important player on this team. Obviously, they're so reliant on him in the face-off circle, but on top of that, expected to be a significant contributor both offensively and defensively. A largely quiet night, but not so quiet there. Candell connecting on the cut. An excellent pass that time to Dave Becker.
What a cut by Becker, coming right through, and a high shot. Really, the only place he could keep that, or put that, I should say, that would have been difficult of a save for Teitelbaum, and we'll take another look at this. This was an unbelievable shot on goal. Here it comes.
And what anticipation by Candell. He didn't really throw it to where Becker was. He threw it to where Becker was going to be on that cut. And Becker, not a name we've mentioned a whole lot, but certainly a key part of this Owls group. An excellent athlete, knows only one speed, and they're really hoping that he's a guy who steps up his game heading into the postseason, because they just think he's one of those swing players for them. And if he can get a little bit better over these final 5 or 6 games, it could make them a different team come playoff time.
He's an energy guy. He came on faceoffs a couple of times and almost beat Ferrara on one of them, and there you see scoring a goal late here in the third quarter. We don't know what that will do momentum-wise, as we're going to get a flag here. A little aggressive play by Joseph DeMonte. And that's not what you want to see if you're Coach Bill Laley right now. That is an inopportune time to get a penalty.
Yeah, DeMonte, I think he was just frustrated there, and Ferrara has that effect on him. As you see DeMonte just about a head taller, but Ferrara puts the ball on his left shoulder, and you just don't really have a chance as a defender. He's so quick. It's very hard to take it away from him.
And the referee may have called this unreleasable. I thought I saw at the end of his gesture to the scorers table. And if that's the case, that's detrimental to Lynbrook. So we'll see if that is the case, because that means Locust Valley can score and that player cannot release.
Locust Valley, again, you've gotten the sensation throughout this game that they've been playing with an extra man the whole time with the space that they've found. Now actually in that situation, and a poor pass in front of net, still able to recover and get a shot off, but it bounced high. And now they put it in. It felt inevitable on the duck in that time.
Anthony Madsen picking up his second goal.
Yeah, Madsen just very opportunistic again. The two current Madsen brothers on the team, though, obviously you don't know how they're going to develop. Not necessarily the dominant forces that their twin older brothers were, both of whom now playing at St. John's, but very solid players. And you see the smarts from Anthony Madsen. You can just tell some of these guys with Jesse Candell on the other end that they come from a lacrosse family, just that intuition, and that they've been around the game so long. Because you see a balance of those guys and the guys who are just great athletes who are kind of playing lacrosse as like a second or third sport and still figuring it out.
There's a lot of families where lacrosse is in the blood, and for the Madsen boys and the Madsen family, that holds true. It was a releasable penalty, by the way, on Lynbrook, so they are back to full strength.
Still, Locust Valley doesn't see that as any reason to prevent them from scoring again. As you see circling here, Andrea, who scored 2 goals in that first half again. A point of frustration at points for Jim Casper, who has been around for a long time and hasn't had too many like Buck Andrea, both in terms of the highs and the lows. Just a fun kid to watch.
I think we're going to get DeMonte on another foul here. Hard to believe. number 1 for the Owls, although here comes a goal anyways for Locust Valley.
Yeah, how about that connection? A brilliant look from Delasici to find Mike Casio for his first goal of the game.
So right now Locust Valley involving some other players. Yeah, nice up and under by the junior, Mikey.
And you just, it's enjoyable to see the chemistry of this Locust Valley group, and typically on so many of these teams we watch, Ben, it's 2, maybe 3 players who do the majority of the ball handling and will kind of swing it back and forth to each other. But you see there are 2 guys we've barely mentioned all game just creating a shot out of thin air.
Yeah, no, Locust Valley's a deep team. Obviously these kids play year-round with club lacrosse in the summertime as well, and Lynbrook players do that as well. Pretty much every lacrosse high school team has athletes that'll play summer club, but a lot of them are 3-sport athletes as well. They're playing football, they're playing basketball. These are just great athletes here that we're watching today.
Still, it is incredible to see the progress of this Locust Valley group. Obviously, last season their year ended at the hands of the same Lynbrook team, and it wasn't particularly close, 15-8, and just less than a year later, completely turning the tables on the Hawks. Obviously, different teams for both of them, but I mean, just clearly in a very different place. Jim Casper, maybe not the lightest of terms, but he described his group as playing as if they were in a beer league when he first came into the program. And now, I mean, obviously it's been a slow start to the year for a variety of reasons, but looking like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of accuracy to that. Sometimes it takes a while for guys to gel. And by the way, look what he's able to accomplish in 2 years. I mean, he got Locust Valley back to the playoffs a year ago. This is a program that's gone through 3 coaches, if you include Casper. In the past 4 years, they've gone through. I don't want to say turmoil, but it hasn't been consistent, at least in terms of the leadership up top. And I think he's done a nice job of settling things down, getting them to play together as a team, as you see Candell with the goal, much needed. So I think bottom line, you got to give Casper a lot of credit here for Locust Valley.
Yeah, Candell, beautiful winding shot there coming around that left side. But yeah, absolutely. And you got to remember, Casper was retired. He was living in Florida, yeah. and he had a connection to this Locust Valley job. A former football player of his, Al Stab, who's very big in the Locust Valley community, mentioned to him that there was an opening. He met with the AD and said, yeah, you know what, I could still do this. And you certainly still hear the passion from the game from Jim Casper talking to him on the phone. I mean, been at this, we said it a couple of times, and I think it's an amazing number, over half a century. And he was on the phone, he was like saying, yeah, you know, I wish I was 40. I want to do this another 20 years. He just absolutely loves it, and you can see that passion reflected in the way this Locust Valley team plays.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're not done here. They're not done. They want more as we're approaching the end of the third quarter with a 12-6 lead. They're still hungry.
They're trying to push it inside to Kaizo there, who's wide open in front of net, and it'd be interesting to talk to Bill Laley after the game. Obviously, still time for Lynbrook to turn this around, but just on what went wrong defensively, because we've seen all these breakdowns where guys are just wide open around net, and you haven't seen that happen once on the Locust Valley side. And I don't think it's this massive talent disparity. Just keeping track of these teams all season, they've been playing at a relatively equal level. I know, Ben, you were saying pregame, even just looking at common opponents, it seems like they're very, very even, and yet this game, it just feels totally different as the diving shot, kind of symbolic of the way this game has gone for Lynbrook, off the mark that time. So we'll head to the end of the third quarter. You are watching Lynbrook against Locust Valley on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Fourth quarter coming up next. Final quarter here at Sid Covert Field on the campus of Marion Street Elementary. It's where the Lynbrook Owls play their home games. Again, Gavin Shaw, Ben Turchin with you. A strong third quarter for Lynbrook, able to stay in this one. We mentioned it was a 9-2 game with literally a second left in the second quarter, and they've come back in and really turned this one into a competition.
Yeah, and before we get back into it, just want to mention how great of an atmosphere it is here at Marion Street. Lynbrook, of course, plays their football games here. They play the lacrosse games here. And this is just a great atmosphere. You'll see on Saturday afternoons, the fence around the field gets lined with the community. And it's always a pleasure for Varsity Media to come here. We're treated so nicely here by Lynbrook. Tom Graham, the athletic director here for the Owls. We thank him. As you see another goal here by Locust Valley. And then with that goal, they have tied their season high for goals here, Gavin.
Yeah, and who else but Buck Andrea throwing in a shot like that. Lower left quadrant, and just another brilliant look for him. He's that type of player. When you're losing, you're frustrated by some of those looks, but when you're winning and they're going in, he's just an absolute joy to watch. I've personally really a lot of fun watching him play, and it was kind of funny the way Jim Casper described his game. He said he plays like a Canadian, and I was asking him, what does that mean? And he's like, he takes all these crazy shots behind his back, underhand, over his head. He said specifically, you live with the bad, and you hope for the good with Buck Andrea, and it's been a lot of good on the day of the senior with a hat trick.
Yeah, he's got 3, and Trepida with 3. Frank Smith leading the way with 4. It's going to be difficult who our Igloo Lacrosse player of the game is going to be here at the end of this one. Stay tuned.
You can even make a case for Ben Farrar with the way he's dominated on faceoff. Obviously no goals yet, trying to do it all by himself there. Scramble for the ball, and the Owls will try and turn it around into some points.
See Barrett with the ball now passes it up, but I'm sure Barrett would like to get one more here at least for a hat trick, and probably a couple more here to get his team back into this one.
Yeah, if Lynbrook had been able to, still could get it a little bit closer, you could even make a case for Barrett for the player of the game, especially knowing what he's going through. It was the expectation, and you've seen it with John D. Benedetto, who essentially, I believe, after getting the start today, hasn't really been in much. He's fighting through a whole lot to be able to play, and it's been an impressive effort from Barrett.
Yeah, we can't say enough great things about Sean, what he's been able to accomplish today under the weather. A senior, and his leadership has paid off dividends here for this Lynbrook Owls team all season long.
David Hill, the long stick. A brilliant look inside, and even better save by the freshman Lung.
Now, Lung's getting some great experience here this season. Obviously, if you ask Coach Bill Laley, not that he doesn't believe in his talents, but he would not have expected him to be starting midway through the season, but an unfortunate injury to Kevin Looney. And sometimes, Gavin, that's just the breaks of a season. Guys are going to get hurt, but when you lose your goalie, a senior leader, and you're forced to start a freshman, that kind of changes the way your outlook is going to be on the season, unfortunately.
No, and that's something Bill Laley, as you saw the flag fly there, extra man opportunity. It's something Bill Laley has been very transparent about all season. He said it changed how they were going to play defense. They were planning on being really aggressive, really pressuring the ball, but with a freshman goalie, you can't consistently expose him to the types of shots that defense is going to result in. So they had to pull back, get a little more conservative, play a little bit more in tight, and it sort of scrambled the plans they had all offseason. Obviously, it's no one's fault. You can't predict Looney's going to go down, but it just completely changed the trajectory of this team that was 2-2 when Looney got hurt.
Right. On the flip side, you start your career as a freshman, and it makes you that much more ready to go. As you see, the hat trick now falls for Barrett. Right place at the right time, right in front of the net. So a third goal for him. But going back to Lung, he will now start his sophomore year, assuming he's the goalie next year, with experience. And that's invaluable to get that as a freshman.
Right, and we've mentioned it a few times, but I thought it was just an amazing stat. Bill Laley got his start at Lynbrook in 1994, took over as a head coach in 2009, and in those 25 years, he has never had a freshman start at goalie. So Colin Lung, breaking new ground and doing a pretty good job at it. Laley saying for the most part the stage hasn't been too big for the freshman. Very, very talented. And obviously, collectively, they can still tighten up quite a bit on the defensive side, but all in all, it certainly hasn't been a disaster with Colin Lung in net.
Well, I think it speaks to the fact of how big of a program and successful a program Bill Laley has run even before his time, but through his years. Bill has a Long Island championship going back to 2014. He's in the playoffs every single year. They are a powerhouse lacrosse program in Nassau County, and that's part of the reason why you don't see a freshman netminder, because they've had upperclassmen leading the way.
Yeah, I was finding it amazing with these high school coaches, just the ability to not live and die with winning every year, even when you're in one of the better programs. And I was just talking to Bill Laley about this pregame, but he was mentioning they won, at least during his tenure, their first 2 county championships when he was an assistant in 2002 and 2003. And then you got to fast forward another 11 years before they reached the ultimate goal of winning that Long Island title. And the fact that it's over a decade apart, and it's kind of hard to process just the longevity of these two coaches, but also just their love for the game and how it's not dependent on winning. And even if a decade goes by between winning championships, it's not the worst thing in the world for them, because there are bigger goals each season, developing individual guys, building those relationships, building relationships within a team, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's just a great thing to see.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's a great thing to see. And look, no matter what happens with the outcome of this game, like we said, the season's not over. They've got a lot of games upcoming that are league games, and they still have work cut out for them. They're going to Bethpage next, Long Beach, Wantagh, Floral Park. By the way, the Floral Park game on May 4th will be another Varsity Media live stream game in Floral Park, and that'll be a game that Lynbrook desperately needs. So season's not over here yet. No matter the outcome here, the season is not over.
And presumably they're going to get Kevin Looney back at some point this season, and that could make all the difference in the world. With just a little bit more confidence, experience in net, they can kind of go back to how they were planning on playing preseason, and would certainly change the trajectory of this team. As you see, the bounce shot way too high that time for Jack Fagan, the senior who came back from those 2 torn ACLs. Did a little bit of a frustration look there. Again, Fagan still rounding back into form, but getting closer to 100% every day, according to his head coach.
And that's good news.
So a 13-7 advantage for the Falcons. Under 9 minutes to go in this one. This game has just flown by. Just trying to maintain possession now. Good look in front of net. Fable trying to turn on it. Won immediately by Lynbrook, so they'll maintain control of the ball. Really good pass that time from Aiden Smithwick, a name we haven't mentioned much, number 23 in white, trying to hit Cable right in front of the cage.
Tough angle there by Candell.
Teitelbaum anticipated it, came out of net. Teitelbaum is just so solid. He just doesn't, you really have to beat him. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So timeout taken by Locust Valley. We'll take a break with them as they look to roll on to their 4th win of the season here on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Locust Valley still in control, up 13-7, 8:13 to go. Gavin Shaw, Ben Turchin here with you on the Varsity Media Sports Network. We showed it off a little bit earlier, but just a thrilling schedule of games again. We have 3 of them this week. This is the first of 3, and they're all on consecutive days. Tomorrow, Ben, we got a good one Carey at Eula, two teams that look to be very evenly matched, both coaches, a healthy respect for one another, wary of one another.
Yep.
And then two powers, Farmingdale at Bethpage to cap off the week on Thursday. And then you look ahead a little bit. That Syosset-Massapequa game really looms large on May 1st.
Don't skip Wantaw Cold Spring Harbor boys either.
Of course not.
A little bit of a break for spring break, and then we'll come back with 4 big games that week. So a lot of action after spring break. We're excited to bring all of this to you completely free on our YouTube channel, which you're at right now. But if you want to tell a friend, subscribe, youtube.com/varsitymedia.
Trying to tack on another one. Oh, what a nice save by the freshman Long, and he does it again. Back-to-back, he denies Buck Andrea, who had just about as easy as a look as he's ever going to get on net.
Colin Long showing the father hands that time with the stick. Not one, but 2 saves, and beautiful ones at that.
And you love the competitiveness from Long so many times, especially for a freshman. You see goalies get down on themselves in these situations, start giving up shots that they normally wouldn't give up. Long almost going the other direction, getting more and more competitive and making some of the best saves of his life.
Has been a short career for him, only a couple of games as a freshman. See, Lynbrook cannot be this patient on the offensive set. Must go to goal and get some shots on.
It's going to be interesting to see, assuming Lynbrook can't come back in this one, how they're able to respond, because they had lost those 4 games in a row. Felt like they really took a step forward with that 9-5 win over Friends Academy, but have just run into a buzzsaw today in the form of the Locust Valley Hawks.
All you can do is bounce back. You got a game at Bethpage after this. Go to Bethpage and win. That's all you can do. If you're Lynbrook right now, you got to regroup, get back to the drawing table, put something together, and come out next time and see if you can put a W on the board.
Goal of this team all season long has been to prove the doubters wrong. Bill Laley very open about the fact he thought his team got a low seed relative to their talent this preseason. Thought he had a lot of good players coming back. Obviously, it just hasn't totally come together yet for them, but as you put it, Ben, still plenty of time to figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, there are winnable games on their schedule. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, I mean, Bethpage, obviously a good team, and they're a familiar foe, and anytime 2 teams know each other that well, can go either way there. Long Beach at home, going to be a tough test, but they get them at home. At Wantaw is going to be difficult, and then Floral Park and Mineola, who's had a very nice season. So, I mean, you get through those teams, you're going to be right there in the mix in the playoffs. I would be surprised at the end of the regular season if we don't see Lynbrook making the postseason. That would be very surprising.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Jack Rogers can get on the board coming off the first 2 goals of his season against Friends Academy, and he was absolutely thrilled because he'd been really frustrated with this year so far. As you see, the nice deflection in net by Teitelbaum, just shutting down what looked to be a fairly point-blank look. It wasn't an ideal angle for Jack Fagan, but certainly had an opportunity on net there, and Teitelbaum said, no go.
Yeah, Teitelbaum has stood on his head today, folks, with unbelievable saves. I mean, Lynbrook has got 7 in, but Teitelbaum's done a very nice job today as well. So you hear the winds whipping a little bit here in Lynbrook.
Beautiful weather to start this one, and a nice idea there to throw it over the net. Would have been an easy shot for Di Benedetto, but Teitelbaum had other ideas.
It'll be interesting to see how Locust Valley plays the rest of their game. I know they've been very up-tempo today, Gavin, but at this point there really is no need for that. The clock is their friend, but as I say that, shots on goal.
Not stopping now. Carlo Paz said, you know what, I want to get involved. Everyone's scoring but me. And that changes today. The 3-sport athlete nets his first goal.
Let's take a look at this here momentarily, because that was some shot there by Paz. Nice pass. Open look. Fire away. It's been the story of the day here. Some of these shots that they've taken from long range, they've had an easy lane to net.
Jim Casper saying Carlo Paz probably the best athlete at Locust Valley, the high school, not just on the team. A 3-sport star, a particularly good football player at 6'1".
We've got a football score right now, 14-7.
So just a touchdown away is Lynbrook. If they can figure out a way to convince the officials, we won't complain. We could use some overtime here on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Said Ferrara continues to dominate after a short stretch where J.T. Bonetto had some momentum, and Ferrara, the one-man run to net.
Well, you had said that he did not have a goal so far in this game, so there's his first one in, the face-off and the score. You can't do that any better than what he pulled right there. Look at the speed.
Yeah, his coach saying, again, he runs like a deer. And when you hear that, you normally think of like a big, tall, long strider. Right. He's quick, but he's also fast for a shorter player.
Right, and a lot of Locust Valley players aren't as tall as the Lynbrook guys, but they have the speed, they have the quickness, and in this sport, Gavin, that could be the difference. It creates some space, it creates some room to get those shots off, and it's worked for Locust Valley today.
So Locust Valley, they had that one game earlier in the season where they got 15 goals against Friends Academy, able to replicate their season high here.
Oh, yes. My mistake. I missed that score. Thought 13 was the high, but here we go. Now they're looking for 16.
But again, in what record-wise is somewhat of a disappointing year for them, you can, and we've done that, probably should have been a foul. We've seen it time and time again. They've shown these flashes of being a really special team, and it's been inopportune injuries. It's been one of the hardest schedules on the island, as you see the brilliant diving stop from Teitelbaum there. But they are putting it together at exactly the right time. The aspiration for this group is to end up as the 2 or the 3 seed, potentially get a rematch with Cold Spring Harbor in the championship game. And at least from a talent and execution perspective, they are looking to be in that mix on the day.
Yeah, that is the goal for Jim Casper and the Falcons. And, the way they're playing right now, they'll move to 4-5 on the year, assuming they get this victory. And a game against St. Dom could very easily even their record, Gavin. That game's at home Thursday under the lights in Bayville. That's a winnable game for the Falcons, especially the way they're playing. So what is 3-5 coming into this game can very easily, by the end of the week, be back to 500.
Timeout taken by the Locust Valley side. Presumably Jim Casper wanting to script out how his team is going to hold on to the ball, close out the final minutes in this game as Locust Valley looks to roll on to a dominant win. They're up 15-7 with 3:45 to go on the Varsity Media Sports Network. So about to close out this fourth quarter, 3:45 to go, 15-7 lead for the Falcons over the Owls. It has been a dominant effort for Locust Valley, controlling this one from the jump, got up as much as 7 goals in the first half before that last-second rip from Fable cut it to 6 going into the break. And Lynbrook has had their moments in this second half, but the Hawks, especially of late, reasserting their dominance.
We'll see how Locust Valley plays this coming out of this timeout. They don't need to be in any hurry. They don't need to be in any rush, even though you had a goal there by Ferrara and Paz in the last minute of play.
Yeah, that last goal by Ferrara making our lives a little harder, Ben, because we're still planning on picking our Igloo player of the game, and Ferrara planting a little seed of doubt in our minds. He wasn't necessarily in the running, but with that goal face-off dominance, he's in that mix, so it'll be an interesting debate.
There's about 6 Locust Valley players that you could give the player of the game, the Igloo Lacrosse player of the game to, and we're just going to have to pick one. Sometimes you got to make a tough decision. And, whoever we pick, there'll probably be 5 other unhappy people out there, rightfully so, because those 5 others could easily be the player of the game.
Right, and you know these kids, they live or die with the Igloo player of the game. It's the talk around the locker room the next day. It's what they're looking for.
Right.
Trying to assert himself in that conversation was Carlo Paz, would have been his second goal, unable to get it, bounced a little high. As Lung continues to stand strong in there, obviously that one not necessarily a save, but he's had to have faced pretty close to 30 shots, and all in all holding up, relatively well.
Oh, the experience that he is getting as a freshman is, just unbelievable. And we're only halfway through the season, and he's got some. He's going to face Long Beach and Wantagh and Mineola and Bethpage, and when he comes out of this on the other side, he will be better for it. He will be a better goalie, and I think that is the bright spot you could look for and look to for this Lynbrook Owls team. You're going to say next year, and we still have the half of the season to go. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but next year, you're going to have a sophomore coming into play, assuming he wins the job, with great experience.
That one took a wild deflection before Colton Andrea came up with it. Colton, Buck's younger brother. Just a sophomore, but you wonder if he has any of that Canadian playing style in him as well. Huh. It will continue to be a thorn in the side of Jim Casper and someone who brings him some joy, too.
There's a turnover.
Again, I still think it's so cool that Locust Valley was able to schedule St. Thomas Aquinas, and you got a team coming up from Florida. It was funny, Jim Casper was saying, because he still is at home there in Florida where he temporarily retired to, and he was saying he got to watch them a little bit over the offseason. He knew his team was in for the fight, mentioning St. Thomas Aquinas, obviously more so known for their football program that routinely just turns out players who end up at Florida State, Miami, Alabama. And he was noting that, they're on the level of like a Syosset, which just to add a context, like if you talk to someone nationally, they'd be like, yeah, what are you talking about? Of course, it's like it's this powerhouse. No one's ever heard of Syosset, but when you go to Lacrosse, it's actually relatively even. And again, a positive reflection on this Locust Valley team, not only that they were able to get that type of game and that type of opponent, but that they were so competitive in it. And in some ways, even though that was a loss, a little bit of a turning point for this Hawk season, who immediately after that one, I think they might have lost. They lost by 1 goal to Cary, then ripped off that 3-game winning streak before falling to Cold Spring Harbor last time out. But clearly this team's starting to find its way.
No two ways around it. They are hot at the right time. And, they've got a couple of tough opponents on their remaining schedule as well. That Syosset game, you brought up Syosset. They're going to host Syosset, I believe, next week. That is a big-time game during spring break up in Bayville. North Shore, which is that's a big rival there. Again, a home match for them up at Bayville at the North Shore game. They still have Wantagh, Floral Park, so season's not over yet, but they're off and running right now, halfway through.
And it's interesting. We talk about how sharp their offense is throughout this game. And Jim Casper gives credit to a former coach at Northport, Bob Macaruso, who he described as sort of the offensive guru of lacrosse, which is a title I would strive for. That's top of the resume stuff. And he was saying he basically runs all of Macaruso's offense. Macaruso watches all their games, give them notes. And then defensively, that zone look that's been so stifling for this Lynbrook team. We were remarking time and time again in the first half, Lynbrook just utterly unable to get a shot off. That comes from the Division III champions from last year, Wesleyan. It was copied by them, a defense originally designed by legend Jack Haley, and one that this Locust Valley team is starting to play to perfection with just under 30 seconds to go. They have a prime opportunity to hold Lynbrook under 8, though presumably the Owls will try to change that in the closing minutes. They'll turn it over. Not going to have the opportunity to do that.
Unbelievable performance today by the Falcons. Very impressive. Coach Casper has to be very pleased with the way his team played. I know it was a tough start to the season for them. They weren't fully healthy. They didn't have a full lineup. But we've talked about it ad nauseum here. They are in midseason form the right way, positively. in midseason form here. And if you're Lynbrook, you just have to regroup, go back to the drawing board, figure out what works, and immediately correct it. And they've got Beth Page coming up, and that's a big game for them.
So how about that? A 15-7 win for Locust Valley over Lynbrook. Essentially the inverse of Lynbrook's 15-7 or 15-8 rather win over Locust Valley to knock them out of the playoffs last season. So Locust Valley program that is going in completely the opposite direction in their second year under head coach Jim Casper, who has been at this for a while, knows how to rebuild a program, doing an excellent job of it. We are going to go to a quick break. When we come back, our Igloo Player of the Game next on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Back to action. It's that time, Ben, our Igloo Player of the Game. Who are you giving it to?
I'm going to go Frank Smith. I think we're both going to go Frank Smith. He led the team in goals for Locust Valley. It was a tough call. Cooper Trepida with 3. Buck Andrea with 3. Anthony Madsen, 2. Mike Cayazzo with 1. Paz with 1 for Aura, but Frank Smith led the way with 4, so we're going to go with Frank Smith, our Igloo Lacrosse Player of the Game.
Yeah, he was dominant in the early going in this one, and I think just so crucial to what he represents for Locust Valley, breaking out and in what's been somewhat of a frustrating season, at least by his high standards. Smith having an absolutely excellent game. So for Ben Turchin, I'm Gavin Shaw, wrapping things up of this presentation of lacrosse on the Varsity Media Sports Network. It's a 15-7 win for Locust Valley over Lynbrook.